And welcome back to the State Farm Analyst Desk. While we're waiting for the post-game interview to be set up, one of the things I wanted to talk to both Jett and Guldborg about was this draft. Because I thought that G2, well, for a brief moment, I thought they were trolling. However, when you see how that Anivia interacted with the entire comp from EG, it ended up working out in their favor. We'll pull it up on your screens in a moment, but Jett, I'm going to come to you immediately. Let's go key takeaways, and then let's go individual onto the draft.
Yeah, I mean, G2 genius, right? If they lose, trolling. If they win, they're just like, haha, Anivia's a genius pick. I thought it actually worked really well. So, like, I agree, at first it's unconventional because they have no true frontliner, but they could still have good zone control with Anivia ult comboed with Smokescreen. They could cover the entire river with those two spells, and then having two Umbral Glaives as well, because they had Pyke and Graves, made them really effective at vision control as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I feel like isolated as a pick, I mean, it really depends on what it comes into. And I think it makes sense when you see it into JoJo's Rise, he's been so prevalent on throughout the NA split. Then you take it into the other context is, well, we're playing around with Yankers, we're playing around with Tarkamas. These two players love playing around caps. We talked about the link up we see from all of them all the time. And as soon as JoJo Pimp no longer have Flash, I mean, the guys just came, raptures or whatever those animals are called around him, trying to shut him down.
They managed to group up and take him down. I think when we saw the Pyke locked in, I immediately said, what do you think of Targamas Pyke? You know, what is our expectations? We said more controlled than Hilly, but this is a pick he's particularly comfortable with. What I really like is, again, the Pyke, the Graves, the Zeri, and then you look at, as well as the Gwen, a lot of mobility. So while you don't have the traditional front line, the amount of vision control, the amount of zone control, the amount of mobility they have, very difficult for EG to deal with.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you see that as well, especially once we come after 6 as well. Casters is struggling as well. Yes, he's great as a fast-growing champion, but into a lot of the champions that we saw over the G2 composition, it was really hard for him to excel at what he does well, and they shut that down immediately.
Let me jump in very quickly. I'm hearing that the Verizon post-game interview is ready. So Yinsu is joined by Caps.
Pog.
That's right, Quickshot. I've got Caps with me here in the Verizon post-game interview. Hi, Caps. Welcome back to MSI. How great does it feel to be competing on an international stage again, and also finishing your day with a 2-0?
I mean, it feels good. Feels good to play international games. I've definitely missed getting some wins against NA. So it feels good to be back, and for sure, was some fun games to start it out with. So.
And speaking about your wins against NA, you versus JoJo has been a pretty highly anticipated matchup. He's been very vocal about crapping on you guys, and you in particular. Now you have played against him and beaten him in this first game. How would you like to respond to some of the trash talk he's been given?
I mean, I actually respect the trash talk. I think a lot of times when we play against NA, it can... I feel like a lot of the NA teams are very humble when we play against them, and it feels good to see someone show a bit more confidence in their own abilities. I feel like they still have a way to go, but of course there's still the rest of the tournament for them to show up. And yeah, I mean, if he wants to talk a big game, then he will also have to to match it.
And speaking of JoJo, today you picked the Anivia. We haven't seen you play Anivia since 2017 Rift Rivals. It's been a hot minute. Was that specific into JoJo's Rise? How long have you guys been kind of practicing with this pick?
I mean, so the Anivia is a fun one. We've been, I guess, practicing it a bit back and forth throughout the year, and we've had pretty good success with it. So we decided to pull it out here in one of the opening games. Kind of to get a strong start going into the MSI, show some of our secret picks, but I'm sure we have plenty more to come, so let's see if we can keep coming up with new ones.
And now you got to play Order and EG quite a few times. How difficult or easy do you think it's going to be able to repeat the results you had today?
I mean, it's a good question. It depends on how well they adapt. I think we were going into the tournament, I mean, quite confident. I think we have a really good shot at beating everyone in this tournament, and obviously Order and EG and not the top dogs, so to say. So I feel like we should definitely be able to take them down. I was a little bit worried about how we would look in the beginning, but I feel like we had some somewhat solid games, even if they were not completely clean. But I'm sure we'll get even better throughout the rest of this group stage. So if they want to beat us, they will have to improve, I guess, twice as much.
Ooh, I can't wait to see it. Thank you so much, Cats, for joining me. It's great to speak to you, and we'll see you on stage tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
And that is it.
Yeah.
That is it from me. And Caps, back to you, Quickshot, and the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Yinsu. Fantastic interview, and thank you to Caps. I think really good answers. I really appreciate the call out. He's happy, he's excited to see JoJo's trash talk. He respects it. And honestly, really, really grateful that it gives us that extra edge to the entertainment side of things.
It's actually refreshing. So I think one of the reasons that NA players are humble is that when they lose, they just get mercilessly pummeled by social media.
True.
Partially because so many international events are on bad time zones. So like you may as well trash talk if you're going to get pummeled no matter what with the poor results. So I also think this is the first game of many. So we got a lot more matchups to come.
I do appreciate as well production throwing up the kill onto JoJo Peter in the middle lane, just as we're trying to praise the trash talking and whatnot. We're obviously looking at a highlight reel here from Caps. That Anivia 407, 84% kill participation. It was a great pick into the composition that EG had put together. But I think if we zoom out and we look at both of G2's games, they've been able to be relatively in control throughout everything. You know, it's been relatively close in goal, but let's be fair, they've had their opponents like held at arm's length, and it's always been dictated by G2's play.
I actually thought this was a way more convincing game than the first one we saw from G2 earlier as well. And I think for Caps and G2 specifically, it was two very different games coming through as well. And I think I take a look at that 84 kill participation from Ming coming through. It's not so much necessarily Caps being the one who's always playing around the team coming with them. It's more like the team linking up against Caps, and then they're moving around with Caps. So it's more like the team coming together around this player, and specifically around the Anivia pick that's so good around the zone control. We see it at the objectives, and we see at G2 as well, who, funnily enough, finally decided to drop that first strike, that went for the Herald instead, and then afterwards got the objective stacking going on the other side of the map.
Jett, when we zoom out and we think about the game now, let's have from EG's perspective to a degree, they were controlled, they were somewhat pushed around the map. I know Vedius was talking a couple moments of some of the decisions they made looked good, but for the most part, it's a tough opening game, but we know they've got at least 3 more against G2, right?
Yeah, I mean, really disappointing opening game. They were never really able to do like very meaningful objective trades to give Danny gold, but then also like their 5v5 team fighting just wasn't better than what G2 had to offer. Weirdly enough, like the Anivia pick was super strong because it provided a good front line, like literally just the spell was the front line, and it didn't feel like EG was ever able to get a good engage. Part of that was the double Umbral Glaives. Part of that was his zone control from the Grave Smoke Screen and the Anivia Alton Wall.
And let me try to think, I'm trying to quote, what was it Moxie said on the desk? They're so damn smart, I hate them, I hate them. And that came immediately off this moment. Every second counts thanks to the reliable Cisco network. G2 were able to secure the Baron, and EG tried to use that Rise ult to try and steal it back. But I think, crucially, if you look at the setup, you look at the vision, what I want to highlight and ask Jett to comment on is, how smart is this from G2?
Every second actually does count with this. You're waiting to see when they're going to scout them with the blue trinket. And honestly, if they scout that 2 seconds earlier, this could be a completely different story, because you do have to use a lot of cooldowns to kill Baron this early in the game. We're like 21 minutes in, and it was a close smite fight.
Yeah, but also like how easy has it become just setting up for objectives like that in the dark when Umbral Glaive all of a sudden has become meta. And not only for Graves in the jungle, you see it from Pyke too, and it's even stronger than Sweeper because it'll give you a little notification when you walk next to a ward. You don't even have to have it in your attack range. It'll come up with a ping. So if you just walk into the Baron pit and you haven't gotten a notification on your OnePlus saying that you finally have a Baron coming up, well, then you can just go through and take it, of course.
So well trained, I'm impressed. Okay, congratulations to G2. They go 2-0 on the day. Jett, I'm going to come to you and say, let's look ahead tomorrow. The opening game of day 2 is going to be G2 versus EG.
It's the same.
The rematch. But importantly, EG then play Order immediately after. So from an EG perspective, and obviously G2 coming up in the rematch, I'm expecting sides to be swapped. Like, what do you think about going ahead to tomorrow?
I think what EG is probably going to come away from that game feeling is that they couldn't do anything. It felt like they didn't have the tools to create fights. So even though I think the Karthus might be good, like the clear time on it, sub 3 minutes is absurd, I think Inspired is going to play something that has the ability to impact the map early. So at least they'll feel like they have agency, which I don't feel like they had today.
Yeah, I mean, I also see this at like kind of quarters, G2 taking the first. I think it's easier for the team that's losing when you have to play against the team so many times in a row because you get to be the one adapting, right? And I actually agree. It's weird in the sense that Inspired, we're so used from the EU perspective being like, well, the team need to play Foreign champions like Counters. Ever since he's gone over to NA and it's kind of been around Danny, I feel like he has to find a pick where you can actually facilitate Danny and make him more comfortable, especially since Danny's signature champions has been nerfed.
It's going to be interesting to see. We've got 2 more games to play. Keep an eye on the meta, keep an eye on the trends, and see what's going to change tomorrow as those 2 teams face off once again. We're going to turn our attention to Group B, though, as it's time to get into the action, as Turkey's fastPay Wildcats will be facing off against the reigning and defending champions, RNG. Drakos and Vedi, take it away.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. Of course, we removed Mark Z upon his shameful loss to EU, which banned from the desk until tomorrow. He'll get to try again there somewhere. I'm kidding. He was here for that game. Now we're going to cast the rest of the day's games, just me and you, Vedi. And what a great time for us to be back together. I've missed you dearly.
Thanks,
And you know what else I've missed?
Tell me.
Narrative. People love it. Our boss
It's our
loves it.
specialty.
We're gonna do a bunch of it.
Do we have some
we got
stories
some great
for
ones.
you?
There's drama. There's intrigue. There's probably a love interest we don't know about, that kind of stuff.
And let's start with the Wildcats, a
Sure.
team that you may be familiar with. If you've been following League of Legends recently, this roster is the same roster that you saw last year.
At MSI.
At MSI. They didn't do that well.
They did pretty bad, actually.
Yeah.
They did beat Mad Lions.
They did beat Mad.
Credit to them.
Yeah, but they went 1-5. That was the only game that they actually ended up winning. But Kelsey Moser did have a bit of a chat with their coach, and she gave me some very valuable insight, which is that their expectations coming into this year and this tournament was that now that they have a lot more experience, they were rookies competing in MSI last year, but this year they feel a lot more confident. They have a lot more synergy, and I think it showed. During their spring split, we saw a very confident regular season. We saw an incredibly dominant playoffs run, not dropping a single game. And this team, there's a lot of pressure on their shoulders, especially when Turkey is a region. Expectations in the past were very high, but in recent international performances, it hasn't been a very good one.
No, it has been a little bit of a downhill trajectory, sadly. And while summer they weren't able to qualify for international, the fact that they've come back in spring, a credit to their tenacity and the growth that they've had as a team. And of course, if you don't know them, you haven't followed this team, very explosive bot lane picks. That's why you're seeing the Lucian and the Samira band away. They might be OP in the meta, but they are certainly OP in the hands of HolyPhoenix. He loves those aggressive champions coming out in lane. If you ever watch HolyPhoenix, you know it. He's always been a Callista guy. He's always been an aggressive pick kind of guy. One of the most historic players in the TCL. And this team, good in the early game. We know it. RNG, domestically, not the strongest LPL team when it comes to early game. So maybe that is the window that Istanbul Wildcats can attack, but they are going up against Xiaohu and RNG, which is never going to be a favored matchup for anybody in this group. RNG are a titanic force.
And as these final bans are coming through, continued to be thrown towards HolyPhoenix in the bot lane. As a reminder, if you do really only follow the international events, RNG is slightly different from last year's MSI, with Bin moving into the top lane from Suning and Xiaohu moving back into the mid lane. Expectations around this RNG during the regular season were a little bit mixed, but they dominated throughout the playoffs. I mean, it was a very close fought battle. The LPL always very stacked whenever you get towards those finals. And I'm very excited to see what they look like on the international stage. Here is our first pick with the Nautilus locked in. Farfetch going towards his comfort, getting something that gives him a lot of agency towards the bot side of the map.
And no doubt the strongest Nautilus in the TCL, even when other people were struggling on it, he was a guy that consistently found a way to make it work. Very powerful pick, solid, reliable, engaged. Now the big question, of course, what kind of aggressive carry can they pair it with? Or with those 3 bans leveraged to HolyPhoenix, are they going to have to shift to something different? Obviously, it's not the same patch. It is a new meta. We've seen a lot of different things today. One of them we haven't seen yet is Ahri. This champion, universally considered very, very powerful in playoffs, and it is why you see it so frequently banned. But this time, Xiaohu is going to get his hands on it. Is paired alongside an Ezreal as well.
So RNG's whole game plan here is ban 3 of the most aggressive AD carries in the game and then pick one of the safest. So you're literally denying HolyPhoenix as many options to dominate through the bot lane as possible. And that's a lot of respect being shown. You've got to remember that this is GALA and Ming. When GALA first came onto the international stage, he took names. He really left an impression, and internationally, GALA and Ming has always been a bot lane that you have to respect. At various times throughout League's history, they have been touted as one of the best bot lanes at international competition. So the fact they're showing this much respect towards HolyPhoenix also goes to show how the Wildcats have typically won their games through HolyPhoenix having that dominant performance, and he's not going to get his AD carry in the first rotation. They will be locking in a strong mid-jungle, and this is kind of where the Wildcats then default to. Well, we can't play through HolyPhoenix, then it's Serin that has to step up.
And Serin has been an incredible player to watch, because even last year I was looking at him when he was playing Azir. He was a consistent playmaking force for this squad last year. Has been the same case this year. Yes, HolyPhoenix is the guy who's going to pick the flashy champions, with Serin a guy who very often winning on his own, doing a very solid job as an individual contributor, going up against, well, one of the most historic players in the world, obviously two-time LPL champion in 2 different roles, Xiaohu. It's a terrifying prospect, but with a Lee Sin, LeBlanc combination, maybe they can get some work done. Third pick coming in for RNG will be the Viego. I think he's only jungle net for now on till forever, but I'm so used to the meta when he was OP in every role that it's like in the back of my head that maybe he gets flexed. However, probably just the jungle pick to match the Lee Sin.
It's also, you know, one of Wei's comfort go-to picks.
Look, logic is important, Vedius. I'm just, we've cast enough stage 1/play-ins over the years that I'm just never 100% confident in anything until we get to stage 2.
I mean, that's fair. Now, I think what's really interesting here is what direction do they go with next? Notice that with RNG, they don't have a lot of engage. They have a lot of pick, a little bit of poke, you could argue, but their comp doesn't really have any meats to the bones. You know, they have kind of like that basis behind a lot of different directions they could go to, but without that support and without that top laner, there's a lot of room for RNG to kind of take their composition in different directions. And I think the Wildcats doing a smart thing of banning away supports. The Leona ban in the first phase was a great answer to Ming in particular, given that Leona is one of his comfort champions, and then removing some of these more ranged, safer options. Karma Ezreal, yeah, Renata Ezreal, both of these duos incredibly powerful, very difficult to deal with, and very much limits your playmaking. And then RNG say, well, you know what's another great champion limiting your playmaking?
And it's interesting because Alistar reared his head in our first game of the day, but there were also 4 or 5 support bans leveraged at the VCS before they picked Alistar, so I wasn't sure where he stood in the pecking order, but obviously once you get to level 6, very, very hard champion to deal with, always has that reliable engage. I like seeing the range supports taken away, especially from LPL and LCK teams. I think in LEC and LCS, we got very used to, outside of a couple Renatas and Luxes, we just don't really touch range supports. It's not our jam, but if you've ever watched a Korean solo queue stream, you know that, well, their support players are terrifying and they will solo win lane. It's a horrifying prospect to deal with. That said, now with Jhin, much more of a utility-focused pick for the side of HolyPhoenix. Obviously can be that big pop-off carry, but generally not a champion who is the center of attention when it is locked in.
So from a draft perspective, the Wildcats have gotten a lot of comfort for themselves. They've gotten champions that they're very familiar with. I'm sure they would have preferred something a little more aggressive for HolyPhoenix, but still, Jhin's something that he has played a fair amount of throughout the split. And meanwhile, it's just like comfort picks across the board, you know. So typically very strong mid-jungle duo with the LeBlanc Lee Sin. And yeah, I'm not surprised. I was going to say, and I think the only way RNG can round this out is if they want to go for a carry or if they want to try and match tank for tank. Now they've got themselves the Alistar to kind of act as that engage tool. They've said, well, you know what? Let's actually just have someone that can potentially match the LeBlanc inside with the champions like a Gwen. You also have the Ahri, but also Gwen can do very well into the Gragas as the game progresses and be that greater side lane threat, while also offering a lot of teamfight value. The small Gwen buffs really did make a big difference in terms of bringing her back into pro play, and we're really seeing her rise to prominence once again.
Absolutely. A champion to be feared. Of course, on the side of Istanbul Wildcats, tons of engage, tons of CC, and disengage. So a lot of things that they can do here, but lack a traditional hyper carry threat. If Serin, of course, for HolyPhoenix gets very far ahead of the curve, they've got a lot of tools, and it's going to be pretty difficult for RNG to play the game. But as most of their champions individually have great escapes, whether it's the mist or the dash from Gwen, the 3 dashes from Ahri, the dash from Ezreal, might be hard to lock down those targets if they cannot find a lead in the early game.
Outside of the Alistar, the good news for the Istanbul Wildcats is that RNG don't have the meatiest of comps. You know, I keep making these meat references for some weird reason.
You're hungry.
Yeah.
I'm hungry too.
True. But the point is that they're quite squishy, and they don't typically build full tank, which Jhin loves. Because Jhin, when he gets those big crits, he's just going to pop you off. And when you combine that with a LeBlanc, there's a lot of damage potential if you can actually land the damage.
Certainly. A lot of highly mobile champions, a lot of CC to help set them up, so maybe see that long-range poke and prod before they let RNG look for those picks. We get into our 5th game of the day, the starter of Group B, of course PSG versus the Red Canids after this one. RNG, the expected favorites of the group. PSG expected to come in second, but of course a single upset is all it takes to flip that script. Remember, it is only Group C is doing the quadruple round robin. I was going to say best of 4 round robin. Quadruple round robin, that was what I was looking for.
They play each other a bunch of times.
Yeah, so this group, every win much more important because there's, technically less of them against each individual opponent.
And we've had situations in the past where just getting one win against the front runners of the group can be massive in terms of actually being able to get out an eke pass, especially if you're like going 1-1 with many of the teams you're competing for spots with. So every single game that teams get against RNG, if they can secure a single win, it's going to be massive for the standings overall. So let's have a look in terms of this early game. Nothing too dramatic for the time being. Looks like both junglers opting to start on the top side of the map, which will give agency towards the bot lanes to be able to gain control. And if we have a quick look at the bot lane of Istanbul Wildcats, you can see already getting a very aggressive position in the laning phase. They might even drop a ward down. In fact, they've already used that earlier on. My apologies, but this does give HolyPhoenix and Farfetch that much more control in the 2v2.
Yeah, and interesting to see just Rune's masteries, early item choices, long for 3 pots for HolyPhoenix, of course, if he can. Trade a bit more aggressively. He's going to have a little bit more effective health as long as it's not an all-in. But on the opposite side, we do have press the attack coming in for GALA. So if they can't lock a member down alongside Alistar with Ignite, they can't do a lot of work. That said, Ming taking the bad end of a trade for now. 4-shot is going to come out. Luckily does not hit onto Ming, so only a bit of poke there onto GALA. But surprise of no one, it's already a fist fight on the bottom side. And similarly, Gragas struggling here in the early levels. Doesn't really have a good way to get away from Gwen. Very easy for her to just stack up the passive, max out on the Q, and jump into him as StarScreen just doing what he can to clear some of the wave here.
Bin choosing not to go for the Ignite. Good hook does land right underneath the turret.
GALA locked up. Farfetch taking the tower shot there. Bit of a miscalculation, going to cost them very dearly. Of course, get level 2 first, so are able to push in that wave, but not really a whole lot else for them to get. Their jungler just now clearing down to the bottom side, so while they did have early pressure there, it will not amount to a whole lot.
Yeah, that was just a really good response from Ming. The second anyone comes underneath the tower against an Alistar, he's very good at punishing you. And if Ming wanted to be really mean, he could have Q knocked up into flash W to knock the Nautilus underneath the tower. Decided he didn't want to make that level of commitment. Instead, he'll just be happy trading the flash. Good response there from Bin in terms of that little 1v1. Dodging away, showcasing his mechanical prowess. And it's the one thing that always terrifies me about LPL teams. Their players are always just very good laners.
Yeah,
you know,
and it also ruins our narrative because we're like RNG, not the strongest team, and then we're like in the LPL. There's always that asterisk because you're like, oh, actually, when they're not playing against, the best Korean or Chinese top lane players, no, their early game's actually stacked. It's insane. It's just in the contrast of regional strength, not necessarily their strongest point.
Yeah, of course, RNG. Relative to the LPL teams, their laners are not considered the best, and even then it's debatable with some of them.
GALA.
He's playing on the edge, as to be expected. Ming gonna body block that shot.
Now they're gonna instantly turn and try to get the reset. If they can take one member down, maybe Viego can get something done, but that's gonna be first blood going over to the side of RNG. Ferret firing back by taking down Ming. A lot of members going very low.
I swear, GALA's Ezreal just does more damage than my Ezreal does.
It turns out when you hit the Qs, Vedi, you do more damage.
But why are all of his Qs like homing missiles? I don't understand how he hits all of them. Of course, a really good pick initially from the Wildcats, but RNG very quickly able to turn it around, and they would have gotten more if Ferret, his quick response there, recognizing the position that he was in, and was able to very quickly disengage with this double.
Downside, of course, Serin uses the TP there. Xiaohu is rocking the flash, and the Ignite also has a decent CS lead. So in the individual 1v1, he may suffer a lot, even if he did make the play to support the team overall. I think the other big thing to think about, past just what it means for Istanbul Wildcats to win versus a team like RNG, is what the draft has shown us about Istanbul Wildcats. Because if this Jhin pick doesn't work, and the strategy is just universally adopted by their opponents to triple ban, things could get hard for them very quickly as we look back at this play and GALA's unwavering Ezreal accuracy.
Just really good target focus there from RNG. They knew that the Nautilus didn't have flash available, and you can see Wade forced the flash out because he knew they were at a numbers disadvantage, but the damage from GALA, the second that Ferret committed, hang on, another gank here.
Forward, Chain is going to connect Xiaohu under the tower. Not sure if he still has Charm. I think they didn't want to commit there maybe because the Charm was still up. Didn't see the start of that exchange.
It's unfortunate. Istanbul Wildcats, but they still do get the flash. It ends up being a trade between the two mid laners. But Serin putting pressure on. And I like this aggression that we're seeing from Ferret. It's something that we talked about, right? The way in which Istanbul Wildcats actually won their playoffs was being hyper-aggressive, either towards mid or towards bot. And we've already seen Serin roaming towards the bot lane. RNG is a team that, as we said, domestically, especially in playoffs, their early game is where they were attacked the most. That was the part of which they showed the most weakness. And I love that we're already seeing that same level of aggression, because if it comes to the late game, RNG's understanding of how to play the map, how to manage their waves is very, very strong. So why bother getting to that point? Just make it a bloodbath as early as possible.
Yes, but of course, that said, it is 6 minutes into the game. We are even in kills, but there is a 1,000 gold lead for the side of RNG. Ben and Xiaohu well ahead in XP for the most part, and it does not get easier for Istanbul Wildcats for the reasons you've already highlighted. Obviously, incredible late-game shot-calling, decision-making on the side of RNG, but the fact that the early game has not been explosively in their favor is only going to make it that much of a harder task, especially as Ben already very much expected to win in this match. Oh, that was a bad, bad ulti.
Yep.
That was bad.
He was just outside of the range, which means that Gwen was, in fact, immune. Ping's coming down as well onto the Lee Sin. Is there a ward there? I don't quite see it. Oh, it may have spotted. Ah, okay, I see it. It's that little ward. Bring this up. It's this little ward right here that spotted him entering into the jungle. So they have information as to where Lee Sin is on the map. Bin is slowing his aggression down just a tad, but it also gives GALA and Ming the opportunity to push in this bot wave and actually look for a little bit of vision. Once again, keep your eyes on the minimap. Look at Serin, once again, looking for a roam. Constantly, his game plan, oh my god, GALA is going to attack the dragon there, drive that aggro. Okay, so it's purely coincidence.
Yeah, purely coincidental.
I thought that was so big brain.
Like, yeah. 5 headless, knock him into the wall. Alistar will follow up. No, he's here for the objective. Gonna get that one uncontested. Herald, of course, still 50 seconds away from spawning and counting. You can see them trying to get some pressure down on the top side, but Ben is so far ahead in the individual 1v1 that I don't really think there's a good angle for the Wildcats to play here. It's a hard game, Vedius. Where it has not been bloody and explosive, maybe as we might have expected, given how much we talked about the Istanbul Wildcats early game, but RNG have done a great job of neutralizing it. 1-1 in the kills, and the gold lead continuing to grow in RNG's favor. First objective going down. You expect the Herald to follow shortly, depending on how confident RNG are feeling. But remember that Gwen was winning trades before she really had any items, and now she is starting to get them, so...
It's one of those situations where the Wildcats committed to a bot lane play, and it just didn't work out for them, is the unfortunate reality. It ended up being a 1-for-1, and I think RNG's draft was just really clever. I think that RNG's drafting was also really incredible during the finals, and a large part of why they were able to get the better of their opposition. And I think we're seeing it once again here. Good preparation, good respect, and the Wildcats really did dedicate themselves to that all-in bot side. It didn't pan out, which meant that Xiaohu got an advantage, the bot lane got an advantage, and in the top lane isolated 1v1, Bin is just winning. So that's resulted in a 1.5k gold lead, and RNG is doing what they know best, control these early game objectives.
Yeah, and again, I think that respect is the big thing that I want to highlight here, because very often when we see heavy favorites in groups, they take some risks, they mess around. G2 has been a team like that in the past. T1, it felt like maybe took some risks in pick and ban with things like the Vi earlier today, but RNG, this is full tryhard. Way on this is not a champion that you give him. He is not out here playing niche picks or weird picks. He is playing comfort up against an expected weaker opponent, doing that due diligence, doing their research in the Istanbul Wildcats, shutting down one of the players that they love to draft around the most in HolyPhoenix, and it's clearly paying off for RNG, as right now Istanbul Wildcats cannot find any advantages anywhere on the map.
And just look at the timings of everything as well. Xiaohu was able to push in mid because Serin roamed up towards top to try and answer. Oh, Xiaohu!
Oh, he wants the kill. Farfetch still ticking, burning ignite. Ooh, the math is good from Xiaohu. This man passed algebra, no doubt in my mind. Xiaohu now leaping backwards. Ezreal coming in from downtown, almost flawlessly calculated, but Serin's got the hands to move out of that one.
Now, the downside for Xiaohu is his wave is in a very awkward spot, but he recognizes I'm going to get killed if I stick around. So he's just going to have to accept that this wave kind of sucks for him. I'm surprised that Serin is actually choosing to push this one out. I feel like he actually could have gone base and then just caught this slow pushing wave underneath his tower. Regardless, Xiaohu gets himself another kill. That's 3 on the board now for RNG. And it just, everything is timed so well for RNG. The way they're playing the map right now is flawless. Farfetch commits to a pick. Let's see exactly. The hook lands onto the minion, and Xiaohu just charms in. Level 5 to level 8, the damage is good. He pops his Corrupting Pot, gets a little bit of mana back, has enough for his ultimate. That's able with the Ignite
The Corrupting Pot Stack is really big there because it functionally looks like he has no mana, and certainly not enough mana to fully commit for a kill onto a Nautilus. But obviously the instant Pot Stack, getting that mana back and able to force that exchange, even on the edge there. Xiaohu getting so much out of that. You can see now 99 to 83, the individual CS lead. And we talked about HolyPhoenix being a big carry for the team. This game, it is not the case. Not just in draft with a pick like the Jhin, but also the Umbral Glaive first. It is a very, very powerful item, but it is not, you know, the quintessential maximum damage carry item.
Certainly is not. And here comes the dive from RNG.
Ming gonna go forward. HolyPhoenix knocked out. They're fishing for the stun. First, they're gonna take down the Nautilus. Wei now gonna hook his way back out in his stolen form, his possessed form. As HolyPhoenix gets poked lower and lower. Ferret on the way in. They will spot him on the ward. RNG taking their time here. They're really not under too much threat.
Look at this. Wei's going to choose to go back to base, get that tempo advantage, so that he can reset back out onto the map earlier, start being more proactive once again. They know that Dragon is in about a minute's time. Bid now in the all-in.
Dashing forward, still has the Ghost up and available. And StarScreen, yes, he is falling behind, but he is not dropped down yet outside of that first game.
But all in all, RNG putting on a clinic right now. And again, we kind of have to go back to that point of RNG domestically, not the best early game team, but it's all relative, baby.
Certainly is, but now combo isn't going to work out. Sadly, Xiaohu.
And he's going to clear the ward as well.
He's got the fancy feet, the disrespect. Poor HolyPhoenix, he just has to stand there, the gun out, saying, I dare you. Walk back in one more time. Xiaohu?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, he's good. He's got a pink to clear.
Oh my god.
I think it's also just, I just want to, no shade to Umbral Glaive as an item. I just think your 80, how often is your 80 carry clearing vision? That's my question. That's all. That's my only question.
I will say though, on Jhin, you don't have to 4-hit all the wards anymore.
That's true. That is a good point, Betty. I'll take that. But I'm just, he needs to be in lanes farming for like a good 20 minutes at this point.
It will definitely delay his spike a little bit.
Yeah, and I just don't know when he's actually going to get to use the passive.
Okay, I'm a little disappointed in that Herald usage, I will say. They had opportunities to just drop it top and bot to secure themselves plates, and they ended up doing either.
Wait now.
Oh,
not
great
quite
ult.
instant charm, though, to knock it back. Ferret, the mechanics were clean, but RNG were just one step ahead.
That was really insane from Wei. He used the invulnerability from his ultimate to just tank the kick from Ferret.
Yep, unstoppable. Serin now dashing away there. Oh no, Farfetch into the wall. Not what he wanted to hit. Ezreal coming in. Just gonna connect on the members of the own team, and RNG are wiping the floor with the Istanbul Wildcats. They were the favorites coming into this one, but sadly, it feels like the draft put them even further in advantage, and Istanbul Wildcats have just not been able to find anything in this early game.
No, and I respect what the Wildcats did try to do. We talked about it, that all-in investment towards the bot side of the map. They felt like they had a TP advantage over mid as well, so even if they did bring the LeBlanc down, they could TP back up to mid, but... Ooh, Xiaohu now.
Charm hits the clone, though. That's big. Otherwise, I think that would have been one dead LeBlanc.
Serin can still look for this. Yeah, Serin has to base.
Ferret doesn't really have a good position to land a Q, and he's been warded. So Xiaohu goes over the wall into the Lee Sin, full confidence. Xiaohu still flishing for the LeBlanc there.
Won't find anything though. Wanted a comment. Perfect CS, or near perfect to Xiaohu, I suppose, on top, mid, and AD carry.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep. If you had any doubt that RNG's laners were pretty good.
It's hard. Okay, I'm going to be honest, guys. Just brief. We're going to break the fourth wall here for a second. These games are hard to cast as a caster because I don't want to be disrespectful to the Wildcats or their achievement in getting here. That's always going to be fantastic, even if they're falling short against RNG. But this game is about as one-sided as they can. It might not look like it because a lot of times when we say one-sided, you guys are used to like 40 kill games. You know, we all play a lot of solo queue. That's usually what it looks like when you start to lose. The Camille goes from 2-0 to 9-0 very quickly. But RNG are playing with a ton of respect. They're slowly but surely choking out the Wildcats. And
I mean, you say slowly, we're 40 minutes in.
They're rapidly choking out the Wildcats. They're full-on headlock. They're running out of air, guys. And we'll see what they can do, but it's a tough situation for the Wildcats.
Yeah, they are dominating in every single metric right now. If it weren't for that one death, they'd be on way to a perfect game.
Good combo, the knockback. Maybe this is something. GALA knocked up. Ignite now taking down from downtown. That's going to be the ulti. Maybe they can turn this back. Bid now pushing forward, though they've burned all of their cooldowns, and they've only taken out the Ezreal. RNG, can they get something in exchange? Serin waiting over the wall, trying to fish Xiaohu, kicked back into the rest of the team. The chain's still attached. He's been locked down. That's a big shutdown. Signs of life coming in from the Wildcats, not getting choked out that quickly. RNG, 3 members versus 4.
The pings are coming down onto the Rift Herald. They know that's a big objective.
Stepping forward, HolyPhoenix, forced shot. Where's it going to go? Have to wait for Gwen to not be immune anymore. Looks like StarScreen is going to be the sacrificial Gragas as Ben starts to run forward. The ghost is popped, and HolyPhoenix is in trouble. Should just get taken down here. Can't get the ulti reset for Wei if he wants to go back over the wall. Ming definitely not threatened whatsoever as the Alistar.
And it looked so good, but it went so bad. RNG saw that Ferret went over the wall. He used his Q to actually close the distance between him and the Herald, and that meant that RNG weren't in a 4v3 anymore. They were in a 3v3, and Bin was like, wait a minute, I'm level 12 on Gwen, and I have Riftmaker. Why would I not pick this fight? And they just kill StarScreen. And the moment that he drops, that front line disappears.
Oh, but here we go. Respect, they're keeping the tempo up. They know maybe they can continue to push their advance, but that is a level 12 Gwen. Gragas just hit level 11. It's level 9 for Ferret. Ming is on the way in. All the CC the Gwen could ever need. Farfetch looking for the backup. But of course, while this is all happening, Herald still falling in favor of RNG.
Oof, it is a rough one for the Wildcats. It looked like a good fight. I like the proactivity. Try at the very least to do something to get onto the board. And they're able to find that big pick onto GALA and get a kill onto Xiaohu. Resulted in a lot of gold in their back pocket. But as you can see, the gold still finds itself very far ahead. GALA hit. Wasn't expecting a Gragas to be in that bush, even commits the flash early. Then the combo comes through, he gets locked down. And he ends up losing his life. And again, this fight initially looks very good for the Stumble Wildcats. Xiaohu on the side ends up getting caught off. The 4th shot, along with the good kick from Ferret, in with the chain to Serin. And it's really here where, yeah, exactly, watch. Ferret's going to go over the wall, separate himself, and now HolyPhoenix finds himself in an awkward position. StarScreen has the body block for his carries, and basically, the Wildcats don't have anything left.
It's just every man for themselves at that point. And again, credit on the initial play there. Obviously, GALA trying to anticipate the Gragas E-Flash, has to burn everything early because you're just not going to be able to react in that situation. But StarScreen holding his patient, but now another fight breaking out. It's a 3-man pulverize coming in from Ming. Xiaohu's still on the front line. HolyPhoenix laying down a bit of damage, but nobody's low enough to really be threatened. The rest of the Wildcats now retreating as Ben is off to the side. Ben on a flank, definitely a terrifying sight. We know that as EU commentators. Gwen certainly set up in a position to continue to press their advantage forward. Wildcats still regrouping, Farfetch still down. Ezreal can hit multiple members, really chunking out the back line here as the Herald's second charge is going to come through. Ming fishing for Ferret. Stun not going to connect. Kick has landed onto Ming. Serin getting lower and lower. They have to be careful here. Wei going to get knocked back in. He's going to find the kill. He's dominating. Oh, such a difficult game for the side of Wildcats as RNG are just eating them alive.
RNG continue to roll it down the mid lane. They haven't stopped yet, but without a minion wave, they're going to be forced to stop. A dragon is available for them. If they so choose, they're going to take all of the bottom jungle. And look at the waves right now. They just have such excellent control all across the map. They have top lane pushed in. They have bot lane pushed in. They have mid continuously pushed in. And now the ping's down onto the Drake as well. Everything going in the way of RNG. And we talked about their good mid game. Well, when you get a bunch of kills early, when you get a bunch of gold, you can accelerate the time at which that mid game arrives.
Certainly. And it makes the good mid-game. You can play a mediocre mid-game with this kind of lead, and you're still going to be okay.
Yeah, I would say so.
Difficult situation. I think the difficult thing for the Wildcats, again, is that if other teams can copy this blueprint and find success, I think it is going to be difficult. Because while HolyPhoenix plays flashy carriers, not every game is about HolyPhoenix, but the Jhin, for me, is just not doing enough. You can see some of the philosophy behind it. He sets up the Lee Sin and LeBlanc. They're going in, they get people low. He finishes the job. It's good long-range CC set up initially, sort of almost semi-global in some circumstances, but just has not worked out as well as a lot of stuff they were able to play domestically. Again, thanks to the heads-up preparation of RNG to really target him out and shut him down.
Played there by Bin. Uses his ultimate to create the sense of I'm about to fight you, and then just uses it to clear the wave. Backs away. Now the re-engage from RNG.
Ferret. Lots of Q's landed here from GALA. Lock up the stun from Alistar, still connecting, trying to find the disengage. Ferret, Q back to the minions. It looks like he's going to do something to make it out almost into the Ezreal ulti, but it's not going to be enough. GALA now taking down Serin. HolyPhoenix now needs to run because Ben is a terrifying man to find in a 1v1 way on the backside as well. HolyPhoenix, 4-shot, the movement speed is not going to be enough. There's no more bullets left in the clip. Double kill for the Ezreal. RNG again. Dominant.
It is an absolute massacre for RNG. They just wipe the Wildcats off the map, and just as Baron spawns, they will secure it. An excellent debut to the tournament from RNG, but you have to feel that this game is done and dusted. The Wildcats are just trying to cross-map. They feel like RNG, oh, we just lost the tier 2 tower in the bot lane, but RNG actually have 3 members up towards the top side of the map. Ferret gets absolutely blown up by GALA, not missing a shot, just barely able to dodge away from the damage of the ultimate, but Serin is not. Meanwhile, being in the 1v2, I mean, what is there to break down here other than an absolute massacre?
Oh, GALA hitting every Q, weeping in, taking kills left and right. And again, even when the thought process is good with this kind of gold disadvantage, there's just not a lot of hope if RNG has members in the area. They are so far ahead. 2 items, 2.5 items, depending on what you consider a Medjai's.
They took his raptors right in front of his face.
Nowhere is safe, Vedius.
Nowhere is safe.
Nowhere
RNG now
sacred.
with the Baron buff. We've had a lot of fast games today. RNG is looking to make it another one. They're going to sweep through all the vision. They have the Baron buff on mid. They have another wave collapsing on bot. And RNG, they're looking to end things as quickly as they started it, as they have the Nexus in their eyes.
And certainly delivering on the expectations that they would be the clear #1 favorite in this group. Well, it doesn't feel like there are any major missteps or mistakes from the team. Some even trades here and there, but aside of that, Istanbul Wildcats getting picked to pieces. Final engage is now coming in. Ferret, there's really just nowhere for him to go. Another Viego reset coming out. HolyPhoenix in the safety of the fountain, trying to get something else done as Ming takes big chunks of damage, ready to body block for his teammate. Serin respawning. Just not strong enough to have an impact here on that RNG front line. GALA absolutely fearless, just throwing out Qs here. And RNG, they're going to end this game. Expected favorites, yes, but this level of dominance, always a pleasure to see from the LPL representatives. Istanbul Wildcats going to be sent back to the drawing board as RNG move up to 1-0 in the group. Absolutely obliterating the opposition.
A very one-sided affair from RNG, matching the expectations put upon them.
Oh, we were baited.
We were baited
The
as they
camera
hunt for
guys
more
were
kills.
baited. It's over now. It's over now. Might have been over 15 or so minutes into the game.
But just very good prep from RNG, from draft to execution to everything.
I'm not used to seeing that. Very rarely do we see that much respect in draft when a major region plays against a region like the TCL or the CBLOL. Pocket picks are not usually respected like that. Comfort picks are not usually respected like that. Usually it's like stock, standard, meta bans, or something a little cheesy or crazy. But the fact that they triple banned HolyPhoenix signs that they did their research, they did their prep, they are not disrespecting a single opponent. And it's a cool thing to see from RNG, but it just means that everybody's lives are that much harder. Because you're not going to catch RNG sleeping if they're drafting against every team like that.
No, and I think it's something that a lot of these teams you have to be very wary of. G2 showed it in the last game, RNG is showing it this game. Teams with very deep champion pools are getting a lot more confident at being able to flex those pools, right? Showcasing the flexibility of Ming and being able to bring out the Alistar. Like, obviously the man has a very long history, but this RNG, if they can continue this level of adaptability and flexibility, as they even showcased in the finals of the LPL, bringing out the Jax last pick, it was just so brilliant as an answer. They're a very scary team for sure, especially trying to navigate that draft pool. And in a best of one, that can be a very difficult thing to outmaneuver what seems to be a very well-prepared and very, very challenging team.
Yeah, and we'll see other form evolves from the tournament going through the stages. Again, still the expected #1 seed to come out of this group. We can see if there are any major upsets or anything crazy happening, especially as we move into the Rumble stage, where we'll get to see a preview of the teams that they could be playing in best of fives later in the tournament, how much that is going to mean, how much that is going to matter. Of course, before we get into our next game of the day, all right, we're going to toss our next game of the day. Of course, the other two teams in this group, Red Cannons versus PSG Talon, to see who can fight for that second place in the group. Again, expectations. There could be upsets, but if you just watched the game I just watched, you're feeling pretty good about RNG #1. We'll be back after a few minutes.
The Red Cannons are here for the legion of CBLOL fans, but they have a tough first game against the PCS representatives and MSI veterans PSG Talon.
Red Bull gives you wings. Red Bull gives you wings.